Yo, what is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new video. Today, I'm super excited to share with you guys some combos for the Speedroid Kashtira deck. Now, this deck has been gaining a lot of popularity lately. MBT did make a video about it using my deck list, actually, and if you want to see what my deck list looks like, feel free to check it out at the link below or up in the top right so you can see what the deck list looks like, why I'm playing the certain cards that I am, and where the inspiration for the deck list actually came from. The one and only Speedroid GOAT himself, Aerosol TCG. I've always got to throw his name out there because without him, would not be playing the deck the way I am today. But I've got about 6 or so combos to share with you guys today that'll show you how to play this deck to its fullest potential. Some going second lines, some lines that help to play through hand traps, some lines that illustrate how to use different cards in the extra deck that weren't in the profile, etc, etc. And really quickly, before we hop into the video, I'd like to let you guys know that Imperium Duelist is dropping this brand new deck box today over on their website. And it's probably going to sell out fast. Their Demon Slayer deck boxes do not last long on their website. I don't know if they're doing a restock, but it is available for sale on their website today, I believe, at this time here. And definitely check it out if you're interested. Here's what the inside looks like. Very, very nice artwork there, especially if you're a fan of the show. There is the back of it. This one definitely is by far my favorite of the bunch that they've released. So if you want to get your hands on it, feel free to do so. Link to the site below, and you can use my discount code WINTERKILLS10 off at checkout to save 10% off your entire order and support the channel in the process. My TCG Player affiliate link is also down there as well if you'd like to check that out, and of course my Dueling Nexus content creator code. Now, into the first combo. All right, so this first combo is probably like the main combo for the deck. It takes advantage of the Kashtira engine, allowing us to access our Speedroid engine through it and ending on a pretty decent board. Now, the nature of the Speedroid engine does involve a little RNG, a little bit of a 50-50. So with that being said, this combo and a few of the others will show the alternate line where instead of getting one card off of Rubber Band Shooter, we get the other, right? So I figured I'd have to include that to make this as in-depth as I possibly could. So the first combo is a 2-card combo here where we have Kashtira Unicorn, Newly Unlimited, and Kashtira Fenrir, which continues to stay unlimited, which is mind-boggling to me since this card is low-key crazy. So first things first, we're going to special summon out Unicorn, activate its effect here to go ahead and search for a Kashtira spell. We're not going to add Theosis, we're going to add Birth, we're going to activate Birth, and then we'll go ahead and normal summon Kashtira Fenrir, activating its effect to go ahead and search out for a Kashtira monster. We're going to add a copy of a Scareclaw Kashtira. If you've already got Scareclaw in hand, feel free to add any other cash that you feel like you want. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these 2 level 7 monsters into Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack. Now, before we go ahead and activate Dracosack's effect, I do want to bring something up here really quickly. It kind of does and doesn't matter what you detach here off of the Dracosack. It really all depends on the scenario that you find yourself in. If the opponent decides to Imperm or Veil this on Summon, which I'm not really sure why they would, you can still detach, to attempt to activate the effect even though it's negated. And I would recommend detaching Unicorn so you can use Birth to bring it back, and then you can still link into Rubber Band Shooter to keep playing. Now, if they do Imperm or Veiler it on the actual effect activation, you obviously will still have to detach for cost. So it really depends on what you want to do after it gets interrupted, right? If you want to be able to make Rubber Band Shooter afterwards, then obviously detach the Unicorn so you have a Wind to revive. But if you maybe already have a Wind extender in hand, like Tekatomborg or a Card Turbo, whatever it may be, right, you can detach Fenrir. That way Birth can still bring that back later on in the combo. Ultimately, we're going to link off the Dracosack anyways, so both those cards will be in the graveyard. But, it can kind of matter a little bit in a, weird 1 out of every maybe 100 matches scenario where what you detach here kind of matters. So just kind of be mindful of that, I guess. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and detach Unicorn here, and we're going to get to special summon our 2 level 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens. And from here, we're going to link off both Dracosack and one of the tokens, because leaving the level 3 token on field is going to give us a lot better options for the cards that we reveal off of Rubber Band Shooter. A lot of the times, having non-tuners in a Speedroid combo ends up being a little bit more important than having tuners, because a lot of times you end up having an excess of tuners. But now we're going to go ahead and use Rubber Band Shooter's first effect, well, second effect, to go ahead and banish a Wind Synchro from the extra deck. Then we can reveal 2 Speedroids from the deck whose level equal the monster that we banish. So we can banish a 7 to reveal 2 monsters whose levels add up to level 7. In this case, it's going to be a 3 and a 4. Now, what 7 you decide to banish here ultimately will depend on the matchup. I would say blind getting rid of Clearwing Synchro Dragon is not terrible, just because it really doesn't excel in that many matchups outside of, I guess you could say, like Kashtira, or in the Bestial Dragon Link matchup, this card absolutely slaps. So again, keep that in mind. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much, but, you know, this card does come up every now and then in particular matchups. And what are we going to reveal here? We're not going to reveal Terratop and Yo-Yo. We're actually going to reveal Dendendaiko Duke and a copy of Fuki Madoshi Piper. Now, this is where the combo is going to split into 2 parts. Whether we get Duke or we get Piper will allow us to end on different end boards. So, for the sake of this first part, we're going to say that we get Duke to hand, which, if you ask me, is the better of the 2 routes. But it's not the end of the world if we get Piper to hand, and we'll go over that here after we play this one out. So we get Duke to hand. We're going to use Rubber Band Shooter's other effect to gain an additional normal summon of a wind monster. But after we do that, we are locked into only special summoning synchros from the extra deck. That'll be the only restriction placed on us for this combo. We're going to use its effect, normal summon Dendendaiko Duke, and then we're going to activate Scareclaw Kashtira. Banishing either Unicorn or Fenrir doesn't make too big of a difference. I'm just going to banish the Unicorn here. And now, before we go any further, we are going to Synchro 10 into Barrone de Fleur. Now, if our opponent wants to Nibiru us, at least we can still use Birth to bring back either Unicorn or Fenrir. And we could still Duke to bring out Piper to excavate at least 1 if we do decide to bring back the Unicorn. And you could also argue that you could maybe Birth before you use Piper to get that extra reveal, but again, I think that plays a little bit too hard into Nibiru and maybe is not worth doing, so I tend to play it out this way for that reason. So we're going to Synchro into Barrone, and then we are going to go ahead and use Duke here without using Birth, like I said, to kind of play around Nibiru as best we can to bring out the Piper, and then Piper is going to go ahead and excavate us 3. It's going to reveal 1 card off the top of the deck for every other wind monster that we have, and we can take any card. Doesn't have to be a Speedroid, doesn't have to be a wind, any card we want. So we're going to basically get to resolve Pot of Duality here, and just for the sake of this video, we're going to say we get some piece of non-engine. In this case, it'll just be Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And now we're going to go ahead and Synchro 7 into any 7 Synchro of our choice, but I think it's probably best to go for the FA Dawn Dragster, as this will provide us a spell and trap negate. And lastly, we can go ahead and use the effect of Kashtira Birth to go ahead and special summon Kashtira Fenrir back from the graveyard. So just off those 2 cards, we're able to end on Barrone, Dawn Dragster, Fenrir, Birth, with ideally some piece of non-engine in hand. I mean, we'd still have 3 other random cards in our hand at this point. We're bound to have at least a hand trap or 2 with how many we actually play in the deck. And again, all off of 2 cards. Not bad, but you're probably wondering, what happens if we don't get Duke to hand? What if we get Piper to hand? We're going to go ahead and go over that right now. Okay, so I've gone ahead and rewound our little combo here to get back to the point where the combo splits. Instead of getting Duke to hand, we get the Fuki Madoshi Piper to our hand. So what we're going to do here is actually go ahead and use Birth to bring back the Kashtira Unicorn, and then we're going to use Dendendaiko Duke Engraved to special summon out the Piper from our hand to still go ahead and excavate 3. And again, we're just going to say we get an Ash as the only decent card to take. Now, of course, if we get something like Tekatomborg or Car Turbo, we can Synchro these into Wind Pegasus at Ignister, and then Synchro Climb into Barrone, putting an extra piece of interruption and sort of protection in the graveyard. But we're going to say we don't get lucky with that, and we just end up grabbing something like an Ash. Now we're going to go ahead and Synchro 7 with these into any Synchro 7 of our choice. I'm just going to go ahead and use the FA Dawn Dragster here. And then from here, we can go ahead and use the Scareclaw Kashtira to go ahead and banish the Fenrir from our graveyard, linking off the Scareclaw Cash and the Rubber Band Shooter into a copy of SP Little Knight. And now we have still 4 pieces of interaction. If you wanted to, you could have brought back the Fenrir instead of the Unicorn, and you miss out on 1 Excavate, so your board would look something like this. Entirely up to you on how you want to do it. But sometimes I feel like going for that 1 extra Excavate can be worth it in the end to try to dig into some form of non-engine. engine to build a better board, or in games 2 and 3, those crucial side deck cards that you need to see in those tough matchups, things like Anti-Spell, Goes in Match, Judgment, Bell, whatever it may be, right? So yeah, that is how you play out the Unicorn plus Fenrir combo and the 2 variations that go with it, because of course with a card like Rubber Band Shooter, you're going to have a fork in the road when it comes to what card you get to hand and what card goes to the graveyard. So hopefully that was pretty well explained. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Let's go ahead and reset everything and take a look at the next combo. All right, so for this next combo, we're gonna just do 2 wins, and it kind of reminds me of a sold combos back when that card was still legal, RIP. But you know, you had your fancy Infernoble Knight combos with like Ogier and Renault, but then you had your plain and simple ones that were just like any way to get 2 warriors on field to get into a sold, right? This is kind of the similar concept where we're gonna use any 2 win monsters to get into Rubber Band Shooter. Now, of course, if you have to use things like Tekatomborg or Car Turbo to get into Rubber Band Shooter, it will ultimately change what you're able to do once you get there, because you have had burned some of your mainstay extenders to get there, right? You have to remember that you have Tekatomborg, you have Car Turbo, you have Duke, and you have Birth, I guess. Those are like your 4 main extenders, right? So obviously you have to use 2 of those to get into Rubber Band Shooter in the first place. It's gonna mean you're gonna be able to do less afterwards, or your options are a little bit limited. So just to keep things simple, we're gonna use the Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf here, which simply says on normal summon, mandatory effect, special summon a token. So the combo goes like this. We're gonna normal summon the Tetherwolf. On summon, its mandatory effect to special summon a token will activate, and it's also going to gain the level of all Mecha Phantom Beast tokens on the field. So it's currently a level 7 because the token is a level 3. This means if we had something like Car Turbo, we could summon it to the field and synchro with the Tetherwolf and go into Barrone, since again it is treated as a level 7, which is pretty nice. But we're going to do something a lot more simpler than that. We're just going to go ahead and link off the token and the Tetherwolf into Rubber Band Shooter, which simply requires just 2 win monsters. And then from here, we're going to use Rubber Band Shooter's effect, banishing a 7. It's going to be Clear Wing this time. No one was surprised. And we're going to reveal the Terror Top and the double yo-yo. This is kind of like your bread and butter power reveal, if you will, because no matter what you get here in this combination, you're still going to be able to resolve Terror Top, right? The only upside to getting the double yo-yo on the field is, one, that you get an extra non-tuner body on the field to be able to potentially synchro with, and the other benefit is that you get another wind on field to be able to get a bigger excavate off of Piper, right? So for the sake of this combo, we'll just say we get the lucky path and we get the yo-yo to our hand. We'll use our additional normal summon of a wind here to bring out yo-yo. Yo-yo on summon will bring out a level 3 or lower Speedroid from the grave, so of course it's going to be none other than Terror Top himself. We're going to add Tekatomborg. We'll special summon the Tekatomborg since we control wind. We'll use Tekatomborg's other effect, now locking us into special summoning winds for the rest of the turn, to go ahead and summon out the Speedroid Fuki Midoshi Piper, and we'll basically get to resolve an in-engine pot of duality here, adding basically just an Ash at this point. Now, if this was something like Car Turbo, we could make 2 level 7 synchros, which is not bad, but we're just going to say for the sake of the video, it is just a piece of non-engine. And then from here, we can go ahead and synchro both of these into any level 7 synchro of our choice, so long as it's a wind. I'm going to choose Clear Wing Fast Dragon since I think it's like the most applicable against all decks. It can basically target a extra deck monster our opponent controls, negate its effects, and make its attack 0 until the end of the turn. Obviously, this isn't going to be that great against all matchups, especially something like Labyrinth, which rarely goes into the extra deck, where at that point we maybe could make something like the Wind Pegasus Ad Ignister, which can clear back row and has a nice effect. If another card we control is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can banish it from the field or the graveyard, target a card our opponent controls, and shuffle it back into their deck. The options here are pretty limited, but, you know, a level 7 synchro off of just 1 card and an excavate, not the worst thing in the world. And again, if we knew we were playing against something where the Clearwing Synchro Dragon would be a lot more beneficial to have, we could just banish Fast Dragon instead at the start of the combo. Now, I would normally go back and show you the difference if we get just the Terror Top, but the difference is literally just this, and we get 1 less excavate. We still end on the same board. 1 excavate. This time around would be only for 2 and a level 7 synchro. So very, very easy combo there. Nothing super crazy. Let's go ahead and move on to another combo, which is going to show something you can do going into a board, which is really fun. So for this next combo, like I said, this is something you can do going into a board, and I figured I'd show this, right, to kind of mix it up from just a bunch of going first things. This combo Aerosol showed me when I first saw it. I was like, this has got to be one of the sickest lines I've ever seen, especially for this deck's sake. So for this combo, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. You just need a way to get to Dracosac, essentially. That's really about it. So we could just do Unicorn Fenrir. You could do like Fenrir and a way to like get Scareclaw Cash on field. Doesn't really matter. Like, or if you just had Unicorn Scareclaw Cash, right? Get Unicorn, get Birth, normal to Scareclaw Cash, make Dracosac. Any way you can get into Dracosac doesn't really matter. So for the sake of this, we're going to go ahead and special summon Fenrir, activate its effect to go ahead and add Scareclaw Kashtira. Then we're going to go ahead and normal summon the Tetherwolf, activating its effect, summon out a token. And like I said earlier, it's going to gain the levels of the token, now making it a level 7. At this point, we're going to go ahead and overlay into Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac, activating its effect, detaching Fenrir, to summon out 2 more tokens. Now, Dracosac has sort of a secret effect, much like Tetherwolf does, that while you control a Mecha Phantom Beast token, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while you control a token. So this card can pretty much run into anything in our opponent's field, and it's not going to die. And now from here, it's pretty simple. We just head into the battle phase and swing into anything, now allowing us to summon Zeus in main phase 2. Quick side note, since we did use Tetherwolf to get into the Dracosac here, we are left with an extra token. If we want to, we can use Dracosac to tribute the token to try to pop something on their field, to kind of sort of clear the way for the Zeus, maybe make it a little safer, maybe snipe off a back row or something, right? Whatever it may be. You don't have to do it, but it's just something you technically can do since we have the extra token. Main phase 2, we're going to summon that Zeus, and then we're going to link off the remaining tokens that we have into Rubber Band Shooter. We'll use Rubber Band Shooter's effect, banishing a 7. This time we'll just banish the Fast Dragon. And we're going to reveal Terror Top and Yo-Yo. And very similar to the last combo, what we get here doesn't matter so much. So I'm just going to go ahead and say we get Unlucky this time around, and we get the Terror Top to our hand. Now at this point, we're going to use Rubber Band Shooter's effect to gain an additional normal of a Wind Monster, and we're going to chain Zeus to that. So it's going to send every other card on the field to the graveyard. Then Rubber Band Shooter will resolve, normal summoning out our Terror Top. Terror Top will activate, adding us a copy of Tekatomborg. We can special summon Tekatomborg. Now here, depending on, of course, what else we have in hand, before we use Tekatomborg's tag out effect, we can use the Scareclaw Kashtira to go ahead and banish the Fenrir in our graveyard to special summon it, giving us that opportunity to be able to make a Baron if we want. And we can tag out here, summon the Fukimadoshi Piper to go for the Excavate of 1, or if we want to play it a little safer, right, we could go ahead and just summon out something like the Denden Daiko Duke, and then make a Baron with the Scareclaw Cash, just like that. And then, like I said, if we summon the Piper, we get the Excavate 1, and we'd make just a level 7 Synchro. But again, of course, it all depends on what else you have in your hand. We'd still have 3 other cards in our hand at this point, and if any of them were something like Tekatomborg or Card Turbo, it can alter what we have, or alter what we make ultimately at the end of the day. So yeah, that's that line, right? We completely clear the opponent's field, and we establish a Baron on top of it with, again, 3 other cards in our hand. And we also put Duke Engrave. So again, if we have like Card Turbo or Fukimadoshi Piper in hand, we can banish this to summon it, and then make a Synchro 6 or a Synchro 7. But yeah, pretty cool combo. One of my favorite combos to pull off, honestly. Every time I do it in a game, it's super satisfying, and definitely a good thing to know if you're going to pick up the deck. So let's go ahead and move on to the next combo. So for the next combo, we are going to require a little bit of a change to the extra deck. However you want to make that change is entirely up to you, because the extra deck space is pretty tight. But you're going to want to find a way to squeeze in 1 copy of the IP Masquerena. Why? Because it works so well with SP Little Knight, which is one of the best cards this format, right? So wanted to show you guys this line that can kind of incorporate this card into the extra deck. And what we're going to need is basically Pressured Planet plus Fenrir. Now this could also be Unicorn plus Fenrir. Doesn't really make too big of a difference. You could also, again, do the Tetherwolf Fenrir route, just a way into Dracosac. And I think Fenrir Unicorn is probably the better of the 2 ways, but again, I think you could also do it with the Tetherwolf also. So we're going to start by activating Planet. Planet is going to go ahead and search us a copy of Unicorn. We'll special summon Unicorn. Unicorn is going to go ahead and grab us Birth. We'll activate Birth, normal summon Fenrir. Fenrir is going to go ahead and grab us a copy of Scareclaw Kashtira. Now we're going to go ahead and overlay into Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac, and we're going to go ahead and detach the Unicorn. and we're going to summon out not 1 but 2 copies of these Mecha Phantom Beast tokens. Now at this point we're going to go ahead and use the Scareclaw Kashtira by banishing the Unicorn or the Fenrir, whichever one we decided to detach from the Dracosack, and then link off the Dracosack and the Scareclaw into a copy of IP Masq Line, which simply requires 2 non-link monsters. Now from here we can go ahead and use Birth to bring back the Unicorn, and then link off the Unicorn and the token into a copy of good old Rubber Band Shooter. Now from here, this is where things start to get complicated. There is like 4 different things that can happen here. We are going to banish a 7 in pretty much every scenario, so I guess that doesn't change. But of course, which 7 you want to banish, that also depends on what deck you might be playing against. Now, this combo is very familiar to the first one, right? Because we have a leftover token. So we could very easily just banish a 7, revealing Duke and Piper. And if we get the Piper, right, we can normal it with our additional normal, excavate 2, and then synchro 7 into something per se like Fast Dragon or Dawn Dragster, since we are not wind locked right now. Or we could go for the Terratop Yo-Yo route and try to play off maybe getting a bigger excavate off Piper and going into something per se like a Baron. A lot of different things you can do here. And of course, if you get the Duke and the Duke Piper route, you can normal the Duke, synchro for Charge Warrior, draw a card, then Duke out the Piper, excavate 2 more, and then synchro into Baron, right? So both routes have their way to Baron. One's just a little bit more 50-50 dependent, I guess. So we'll go with the slightly better route here, revealing both Terratop and Yo-Yo. And for the sake of this, we're just going to say we end up getting the Terratop to our hand. And now we're going to go ahead and use our additional normal summon to bring out Terratop. Terratop will add a copy of Tekatomborg. We'll special summon Tekatomborg and tag out for a copy of Fuki Madoshi Piper. And we're just going to say what we get off those excavates is just, again, another Ash Blossom. Then we can go ahead and synchro off the Terratop, the Piper, and the last remaining token into a copy of Baron de Fleur, just like that. So we end on IP, which can tag into SP, of course, on the opponent's turn. We have Baron, and we have Ash in hand. And we still have Birth in play, which is going to act for pretty good follow-up, considering we have access to Unicorn and Fenrir already in our graveyard. So, yeah, that is it for that combo. It's a pretty cool end board. It does play into Nib pretty hard because you do have to use a lot of your extenders pretty early on. But, I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of a cool line. I don't know if I'm going to include IP Masquerade into my extra deck right now, just because I think playing Win and Doom Eagle are very, very strong this format, because it helps you play through Droll, and Doom Eagle controlling the graveyard is also pretty solid this format too. But I digress. Let's go ahead and hop into the next combo. So for the next combo here, we're going to do something a little bit unique. We're going to show off a combo that uses 2 copies of Baron de Fleur. Now, we're not making 2 because you can somehow magically use both negates, right? That's not how it works. The reason we play 2 Baron in this deck is mainly for 2 reasons. 1, because having a second copy to follow up with after the first one gets outed is extremely important for this deck's turn 3. Not only that, some combos allow us to make 2 copies of Baron in a single turn in case we have to use the negation of one of them very early on to protect a crucial choke point like our precious Rubber Band Shooter. So this combo is going to showcase us making an early Baron, having to use that negate early, and then still able to establish a second Baron later on in the turn, and then be able to use the first Baron standby phase effect during our opponent's turn to bring out some other form of interruption. So for that combo, very, very simple combo here. Kashtira Unicorn being one main part of it, and then a copy of Duke and a copy of Car Turbo. This could be Car Turbo and Tekatomborg, right? Doesn't have to be these exact 2 cards, but this combination here is really good. Starting with Duke, getting that in the graveyard very early, as many Speedroid players will know, is super crucial to some better combos. Now, we're going to start off by special summoning Unicorn, activating its effect to go ahead and add a copy of Birth. Then from here, we're going to normal summon the Duke, and then quickly synchro into our first copy of Baron. We're going to go ahead and activate the Birth to go ahead and bring back the Unicorn. Then we're going to activate Car Turbo effect in hand since we control a Wind Monster to special summon to the field. Now we are locked into only activating the effects of Wind Monsters. Now here, we're not going to synchro into a second Baron right now because that would be insanity. We're going to go ahead and link into Rubber Band Shooter. We're going to activate Rubber Band Shooter's effect here, banishing a 7. Our opponent knows this is a good choke point to attempt to interrupt, so we're going to chain Barrone to go ahead and negate whatever hand trap they might have. Now, of course, if our opponent does have that crucial second hand trap, that's not the end of the world. We did force another card out of their hand. We could simply use Duke to bring back the card turbo, then link off the Rubber Band Shooter and the card turbo into SP Little Knight, and then we still have the effect of Barrone in the standby phase to be able to bring back Unicorn as a way to sort of try to interrupt our opponent by taking a look at the extra deck during their turn. So not the end of the world here if they have another hand trap to respond to the Barrone. But let's say they don't. They fired off Ash and Barrone goes ahead and negates. Our Rubber Band Shooter effect is still going to go through here. Now, the only thing that changes with this combo here is if we get Yo-Yo or Terror Top is the amount of excavates we get. You can end on 2 level 7s if you get the Yo-Yo, but the whole purpose of this combo is to showcase how you can end on 2 Barrones or make 2 Barrones in the combo, and ending on 2 level 7s won't allow us to do that. So for the sake of this, we're going to take the worse off option, which is getting just Terror Top to the hand, but again, the only thing that really matters is that we're resolving Terror Top. We'll use the additional normal summon effect to bring out said Terror Top, activating its effect to go ahead and search for Tekatomborg. Then we're going to special summon Tekatomborg, activating its effect to tag out into the Fukimadoshi Piper. And Piper will go ahead and excavate for 3 here. Now, we could, of course, have used the Duke to bring out the card turbo first, allowing us to go for an excavate of 4 instead of 3. But it really doesn't matter too much. You could argue maybe it's a little greedy using that effect right away. Because if they did nib us here, we'd still have the Duke effect engraved to be able to summon out the card turbo, then link into win the Wind Channeler. So just kind of keep that in mind. I know this deck can be pretty complicated with all these different branching paths, but our Piper's going to resolve. We're going to say we get the standard Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. For some reason, we keep revealing 3 Ash. And now here we have more options, right? Really depending on what you're playing against, what you kind of value more in this situation. And again, one of the reasons why I love this deck, it has so many options at hand. We could either synchro here into a level 7, like Wind Pegasus at Ignister, and Wind Pegasus is the perfect stepping stone to get into the second Barrone because it provides a layer of protection and interruption in the graveyard, right? If another card we control is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can banish it from the field of grave, target a card our opponent controls, and shuffle it right back into the deck. So what we do from here is just go ahead and use Duke to bring out card turbo, and then simply synchro back into our second copy of Barrone just like that. Now, there is, like I said, an alternate play that can be made here, where we don't make the Wind Pegasus at Ignister, and instead we Duke out for the car, and then we go ahead and synchro into Stardust Charge Warrior. Charge Warrior draws us a random card, then we synchro into the Barrone, but of course we lose out on the Wind Pegasus in the graveyard. But we'd have a few extra cards in hand. We'd have 2 extra cards in hand since we started the combo with 3, kind of helping us to sort of almost break even on the cards that we started with, right? So really depends on what you want to do. I would personally prefer in this situation to go for the Wind Pegasus route because I think it, leaves a little bit more to the end board. And if we have something like Pot of Prosperity in hand, going for Charge Warrior would turn it off, so we obviously don't want to do that. So if it were me, in most cases, I'm probably just going to end on this. And then during the standby phase, we'll use our other Barrone here to bring back whatever you want, really. I would probably bring back the Unicorn because it's a nice form of interruption, but there is a world where you could bring back the Piper and excavate another card since we have 2 wins on field. Hopefully we dig into a crucial hand trap like Droll and Lockbird, whatever it may be. Bell against the Labyrinth matchup. And yeah, that's pretty much the double Barrone line. There's other ways, of course, you could get to double Barrone. This is just one of those ways that I think makes the most sense. And it's pretty fun to pull off as well. Not too many decks get to play 2 Barrones, and not too many decks get to summon 2 Barrones at the same time and have it actually make sense. But hopefully that made sense. And yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at one more combo. Alright, so for this next combo, I'm going to show you guys a really cool line that you can do under Droll and Lockbird, which I think is important to note because if you do decide to play this deck, Droll and Lockbird is probably going to hurt you quite a bit, and obviously the severity of how much it hurts will depend on what type of hand you open, as is the case with a lot of decks, right? Droll is good, but if they open this way, right, maybe not so much. And Droll maybe might not be so popular right now in this sort of like early January sort of 2-week format or so before Phantom Nightmare drops, but if Droll does become super, super prominent and everybody's maining it, knowing these types of lines could definitely help you out. Now for this combo, we're going to say we have something like Unicorn and Tetherwolf here, just because it's going to allow us to get into Dracosac, which is going to help us do a lot more. Now you could also say you have like Tekatomborg or Duke, or you could have Car Turbo. But in those scenarios, I think it makes a little bit more sense to just establish Barrone and then Birth bring back the Unicorn. But, you know, I wanted to kind of move away from some of the Barrone plays and take advantage of things like Dracosac. So let's go ahead and see how that would play out. We're going to special summon the Unicorn, activate the effect to grab Birth, and we're going to say our opponent fires off Droll and Lockbird. No more searching for us means Rubber Band Shooter is completely off the table. So from here, we're going to go ahead and normal summon Tetherwolf, and we're going to special summon a token. I'll just sort of move this over here. And then obviously, since Tetherwolf is now treated as a level 7, we're going to overlay into Dracosac. We'll detach the Unicorn, summoning out 2 more tokens. Now at this point, we're just going to go ahead and link off 2 tokens into a copy of the Wind Charmer Verdant. We'll activate her effect to go ahead and special summon that Droll and Lockbird back to our field. Now from here, we can just go ahead and link off the Wind Charmer and the token into a copy of Phrasevelger, the Desperate Doom Eagle. And then last, we can link off their Droll and our Dracosac into a copy of SP Little Knight. Then we can go ahead and activate Birth to go ahead and bring back our Unicorn. And just like that, we end on Doom Eagle, which is a quick effect, basically shuffle back a monster. I believe it's a monster, or is it any card? Target 1 monster in the opponent's graveyard, shuffle it back into the deck. Obviously, SP Little Knight is SP Little Knight. We have the interruption of Unicorn and Birth to go along with it. And one important thing to note about Doom Eagle, if your opponent has no monsters in their graveyard, it just essentially doubles its attack to 4,800, which is kind of insane, which means we can kind of like threaten game either on this turn or on the next turn if we ended up going second with this line here. Yeah, 48 plus 25 is 60, 70. Yeah, this would be game on board right here if we were going second. So very, very cool thing to do. And I think if you can go for Dracosac under Droll, you'll be able to end on a lot more as opposed to having to like work with things like Duke, Car Turbo, Tekatomborg under Droll, because you're probably just establishing Barrone and then Birth bringing back Unicorn, which is very simple. And I wanted to show it a little bit more like a flashier end board under Droll and Lockbird. So it's not always the end of the world if you get Drolled. Obviously, some hands, if you start Terror Top and you get Drolled, they're probably dead in the water, but it's just is what it is, right? That's Yu-Gi-Oh! Not much you can do about it. And that is going to do it for the combo video. I hope you guys learned something. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And as always, Winner Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And last but not least, a big thank you goes to our current Divine level channel members who are Pony Start, Cadillac Green, Mizfid, and HZH Cyber. Thank you guys so much as always for your extremely kind and very generous continued support of the channel.